All right, let's go. Last part, mark seam. Select all my faces, unwrap. Oh, God. Check my UV shell. Yeah, not bad. Make this with everything else. Oh, dude, the freelance project. I got that a month ago. It's due next week. Oh, crap, okay. This is a concept. I can sculpt this in ZBrush. But I really want to try Blender. I don't think I have the time, but let's look at sculpting in Blender. AI-powered tools transform how you create content? There's no way, dude. The easiest way to create 3D models? Get started, it's magic. Okay, that's exactly what I need. Can I just drag and drop this concept? Best AI 3D mesh generation. Meshy, Tripo, Hitem, they're at the top of the list. I also heard about this thing called Hunyan. All right, perfect. Let's give Meshy a try. I'm just going to drag this image right into the image generation. Futuristic helmet design. Yeah, sure, good enough. All right, while that's going, let me try Tripo. Let's drop this in here. Generate model, baby. Let's go. All right, while that's going, I'll try Hunyan. Man, this is all in Chinese. Translate. Thanks, Google. Upload single image. Perfect. Model count, sure. 1.5 million. Generate immediately. 190 seconds. Damn. All right. While these are all going, I'll hide them. All right, I got a little team artist going, AI artist. Let's see what I got. Ugh, what the hell is this? No. Oh my God, no. This is not what I wanted. Maybe it'll look better with the texture. Look at these ears, dude. Triple, what do you got? Oh my God, dude, what is this? Why are there tracks? Where did it even get this information from? That's not what I gave you. Oh, God, Onion. God, you're still going. Hide them. Okay, there we go. Oh my God, it's doing the same thing, dude. It's just making stuff up. I gotta actually learn AI mesh generation to get good at this? I thought that was the whole point. I thought you were supposed to be good. Oh, geez, no. Looks cool, but this is not what I need. All right, what do we got here, Tripo? It's actually not bad. It's pretty good, but man, it's messing up the form proportions. The back is too hard. It's just making stuff up again. Okay, Hunyan, let's go. We got all the images in here. Okay, I mean, this isn't bad, but oh my God, it's making up the back again. It made the edges too sharp. I can't work with this. Hide them. Oh my God, dude. Jeez. Jeez. What is that, dude? How did you make this up from this image? I gave you this image and you just rotated it? Correct client again. Need updates tonight or project is terminated. I wasted all this time trying to figure out AI. Should have just sculpted it in ZBrush. All right, let's go. All right, here we go. Sculpt's done. Close enough to the reference. Let's send it to the client. Oh my God, dude, he immediately responded. Feedback sent. Nice work. Oh, thank God. See what we got. Okay, not bad. I can take care of this. At least for now, no more AI. So that was a lot of fun. Let's talk about what we just saw. What you just saw was based on true events. I really wanted to push AI through its paces. I really wanted to test it against as close to production scenarios as I could. Also, stick around to the very end because what I've done is taken AI mesh-generated assets and integrated into a scene that I've created 100% by hand. Let's see if you can notice where the AI assets are among all of the actual game art assets. So for this project, what I did was partnered with David Arredondo and Class Creatives to replicate this production environment. This is actually part of a course and mentorship that we're building that takes people through a live production scenario. So let's talk about how I did that. This was the concept that I was given. Dave is a professional concept artist. He's worked in film, fashion, interactive technologies for over a decade, so he really knows what he's doing here. He creates this concept and passes it off to me, a production artist, to create this as a production-ready asset for real-time games. So what I ended up doing was taking this concept and creating a sculpt in ZBrush. So you can see this was the initial sculpt. So I went through, I created the full sculpt, I sent it over for Dave for feedback, and then he did these fantastic draw-overs, really calling out things that I overlooked, things that I misinterpreted, things that always happen in a production pipeline. We went through a few rounds of feedback where I would send it, he would do some draw-overs. So this is initial sculpt here, the initial version, and then the final version. So after those multiple rounds of making assumptions, correcting assumptions, we ended up with this as a game-ready real-time asset with the entire helmet being about 5,000 triangles, which was perfect. So then I thought, can AI do this? Can AI go through the exact process that I went through with a fleshed out concept and create a usable asset? And the TLDR is no, not today. The last time I looked at AI was over 6 months ago for mesh generation. I wanted to revisit it and see what type of progress it has made since then. And let me tell you, it has made substantial progress. I was thoroughly impressed with what it can do. And what it can do is it can generate great generic assets. But where it struggles is AI cannot create the exact design through the exact pipeline by the exact deadline that I needed it. I want to emphasize, I am not sponsored by any of these AI mesh generation tools. They constantly reach out to me. They're trying to fly me out to conferences, put me in hotels, do everything for me to sponsor their content, and I will not do that. Every test has been out of my own pocket. So the big four that I looked at was Meshi, Tripo, Hunyan, and Hitem 3D. And these were the results from the initial test. I started first with this side view. And what I also did as I went through and captured this is I'll make this available, but this was essentially the live testing that I went through and captured it all within this Miroboard. You'll see where I started with testing out image generation, seeing how much better it got. So I captured that initial test. I provided some context and then output these initial results here. From there, I have this Miroboard which shows a more refined workflow. When I started getting more consistent good results, that's what this second board is down here. In Meshi, I have this single image concept where I just put in the side view. I says, you know what? Let's see how good this does. And it does okay. Again, it looks fine. You're like, oh wow, this looks awesome. And then you start to rotate. And this is where it falls apart. It's making assumptions. And to be honest, can you blame it? I went through kind of similar issues here where it doesn't quite understand thickness, depth, the perspective orientation, and details of the model. And then when it doesn't have information, it just has to guess, right? We could call it hallucination, but in this case, again, I didn't give it enough information. Initially, I was super frustrated, but then I was like, you know what? Why wouldn't I expect it to produce something like this if I'm not giving it more information? Tripo, same thing. It actually does a really, really solid job. And then here towards the back, it's like, oh, well, that's supposed to be a light bar. Then I jump over to Hunyan and we take a look. This is what I'm talking about. You initially look at it and you're like, oh, that's awesome. It looks fantastic. But then you rotate and you're like, oh my God, what is it doing, right? And then here's Hitem. Hitem, I kind of tested a little bit later, but I gave it single image references and it does okay. But you can see it just doesn't give me what I want, all right? So if I head back to my Miroboard, here's where I started really making refinements to my pipeline, is that I took this concept and then I used image generation to generate multi-view concepts. So Nano Banana Gemini produced really nice results here. Though it couldn't match the look, feel, and finish, that was okay. And here's ChatGPT. ChatGPT just really took a lot of liberties here and changed that concept based off of what I provided it. So because I knew I needed to give it more information, I went and generated multi-views with both Nano Banana and ChatGPT. And I did that. I mesh generated for both image generation for Meshi, Tripo, Hunyan, and Hightum. So I'm going to jump into the scene in Blender, and you can see that here are the comparison. I have Meshi, Tripo, Hunyan, Hightum, each with the Nano Banana and ChatGPT version. And again, it just looks okay from some angles, a lot of hallucination, a lot of figuring out, completely changes the silhouette in some instances. Triple, I would say, probably gave me the best results for this helmet. And then Hunyan was pretty solid as well, except it really messed up the back. And then Hightum, not even a contender here, right? So I would say, like, of these two, I'd say probably these two were the closest, okay? The closest I could get with as much testing as I put in. Now, here's the crazy part, okay? Is after I had finished the helmet, I thought maybe here's the 3D Art Low version. If I jump over here, I said, you know what? What if I took this and created those multi-view images and then gave that to the mesh generation and see what it produced? Let's look at what it did. This is Meshi. I mean, look how good that looks. This was pretty incredible. And I also want to add that these are all high poly. None of these are low poly. That's a whole nother story, and we're going to talk about that towards the end. But look at this. It really nailed the overall view, the shape, the silhouette, the nice details. I mean, if I side by side compare Meshi with my 3D art version, it is really, really good. It nails down these bevel details. All of the stuff that I had spent rounds of review to nail down. The key thing to know is that the moment I removed that ambiguity, AI got significantly better. That was Meshi. We look at Hightum and it does okay. Again, it can't get this panel over here, right? It just could not figure out this panel. It just absolutely ignored it. Again, not that great. We look at Tripo. Again, Tripo does pretty good, though it starts to give me some holes, which is weird because now I gave it very specific reference, and Meshi ended up pulling out as far as the quality. Though overall, the shape, the form is there, it does mess up a bit on the details. Hunyan, the form's there, but absolutely butchered the texturing, right? When you compare this to this, where I started and then where we ended up, with the key thing that we need to understand is removing ambiguity. And if you do that, AI mesh generation becomes really, really powerful. But you're probably thinking, that's because I already did the hard part. And you're absolutely right. And if AI can solve that part, then it becomes a serious contender for 3D art pipelines. If you want to learn game art the right way and not just follow random tutorials, I built a full game art program that walks you through the entire pipeline from an idea to a finished portfolio piece. It's split into 2 courses. Modeling and UV mapping foundations is the first one, and texturing, rendering, and presentation is the second. Each has over 40 modules, 15 hours of narrated content, exercises, time lapses, project files. And you're not doing it alone. You get access to a private Discord community where you can ask questions and get feedback along the way. If you want real-world production workflows you can use for both studio work and your personal projects, the program is live now. I'll see you there. Then I had really good success with another concept, which was this orange visor helmet, okay? So here again is a combination of AI, hand painting, refinement, Nano Banana to create the front view, the side view, a 3/4 view. And then here's what the results were. And here's what you're gonna notice. This one was a fun challenge because AI mesh generation has a very, very hard time with layered transparency. Meshi was smart enough to know that there's a transparent visor and it focused on the human face. So it removed the visor, it gave me the human face. Cool. Tripo did the opposite. It said, no human face, visor only, here's what we got. Okay, cool. Hunyan did this. It kind of was like, I don't know what you're doing, and tried to project the face onto the visor and gave you this monstrosity here. Hightum, again, fighting for its life. It did okay, but it gave me the visor and then completely projected that face on that visor. So I said, all right, cool. Ambiguity, limitations, we understand that now. I go to Nano Banana and I say, generate it with no human face, opaque visor only, and then look at that. Look how good these concepts look, right? You'll see one that's the Nano Banana version and one that's the ChatGPT version. Honestly, very, very nice details. You can see things get a little bit ambiguous. It doesn't know exactly in some instances how to handle the back portion, and each one of these handle it very differently. But overall, I mean, very, very good, very, very solid results. Then I wanted to push it even further and look at doing something based off of real life. So I found this off on Instagram. It was a really cool post. Here's something that I was like, oh, this would be awesome to create a 3D model of. But I knew I couldn't, based off everything I learned so far, I couldn't put this exact concept in the mesh generation tool. So what I did was take this concept and refine it with Nano Banana and Gemini. So with that, with these initial tests, I put it right into Meshy, right into Tripo, Hunyan, and Hightum, and it did a pretty solid job. Now, you'll see anything with a mannequin, right? Anything with this mannequin was done off of that main concept, and we'll talk about these other variations here in a second. Then I start to look at where is it falling apart. In a lot of areas, it completely hallucinates and doesn't know what to do with graphics. Like Meshy actually does a pretty solid job here. Tripo here, this one I tested with what's called mesh generation with parts to see how it could handle separating this out into parts. I was like, that'd be awesome if it could separate the hands out, if it could separate the straps out, but no, it didn't. It went a little bit higher level, and it doesn't exactly know where the pants end and the shoes start. That was kind of a fail test there. But again, it was a lot of information to process. Here's Hunyan. You can actually see it changes the shape and form a bit, the silhouette, but it still produces pretty solid results. Like here is where it's really being pushed. A lot of this here with the straps, but it handled it incredibly well. And then here's the Hightum High. So now that I started realizing this, I said, okay, let's be more specific and let's be more focused. So I said, remove the mannequin entirely, remove the graphics, textures, patches, and details. Clearly it's having a hard time with that. And now just give me the jacket, no head, no hands, and output these views again. And it did. This is what I mean by removing ambiguity, being specific, that will yield better results. Again, it does get a little bit messy sometimes. It doesn't exactly match from front view to side view. But once I did that, I tested at least the jacket for all these because I was starting to run out of credits here. It produced much better results. Look at this. I mean, the meshy view, because now look at this. We're at about 750,000 triangles just for this jacket alone without all that extra detail. And look how clean that looks, right? What's the alternative here? The alternative is I sculpt this by hand in ZBrush, or I simulate it with a Marvelous Designer or Clo 3D. But to go through that process, that much faster iterative process through mesh generation, it gives me this really nice result. It does get a little bit messy in some areas, like with the zipper, fine detail, it doesn't know exactly what's happening. Hunyan, again, I mean, it does, I was really impressed with Hunyan. Like, it does a far better job at some of these separated parts. The pants started to look a little bit inflated almost. It started messing up the wrinkles, but I thought the jacket was really solid. And then Hightum actually produced pretty solid results here. Here's the whole thing, summarizing this Miroboard, right? It will absolutely struggle when the input requires design decisions. If you let AI make decisions, you're gonna have a bad time. I had a bad time. And that is proof of this because I was pretty specific here to generate these front 3/4 views. So there was a lot less ambiguity. When you contrast that with what I went through with this Sci-fi helmet, you can see why it struggled and had such a bad time with this. Hey, quick note before we continue. You can get access to the full Miroboards and the Blender files at onmars3d.com or my Patreon. You'll also find the extended cut version of this video with more concepts, tests, and detailed breakdowns. Link in the description. All right, back to it. So the last section I wanted to look at was topology generation, all right? I took some of these models and put it in some of these mesh generators, and honest to God, I was really impressed and surprised by what AI was able to do from a topology standpoint. Meshy, not great, okay? When I have it create low poly topology, It essentially just goes through and does like a standard reduction in decimation. Not great. Tripo does a great job, but here I did low poly plus parts and it fell apart, okay? By the way, if you watch my last video, you'll see my Cyberpunk phone. This is where AI was about 8 months ago, okay? And this was specifically with Meshi 5. And this is pretty much the result I got with a lot of AI. This is where it is today. Significantly better. And all of that was generated off of a single view. So I didn't even go through the multi-view process, but it really created solid results. Hunyan again changes proportions, but boy, these results are really solid. And so if we jump back, let's look at where it does an amazing job. Again, look at this. Look at this phone from Hunyan. Notice it does not give me textures. This is using Polygen 1.5. And to be dead honest, guys, I mean, look at this. This is about as good as what I would expect a 3D artist to create. We have the low poly here that I created and 5,000 triangles, good consistent edge flow. We're focusing on all the key details, the paneling, the silhouette. Even in some instances, I go through, instead of having geometric panels, I just have it fully textured because of the small nature of the detail. And so let's see what Meshi does here for the low poly. This is now about 5,000 triangles, so this is about as low as it could go. And it is really not that great from a topology standpoint, but from a reduction standpoint, it is really, really good. We're looking at about 5,000 tries, but there's no semblance of any edge flow or topology or anything like that. Like it even struggles here on the circular portions as well. Hunyan 3.1. Now this is now starting to look quite a bit more intelligent as far as edge flow goes. I'm really happy with some of these details. However, some areas just completely goes off in an area that isn't really helping the form, their silhouette, or even the topology. Tripo also does an amazing job. And I'm going to tell you why. Look at this, right? What I would expect is it intelligently does not do this, right? It knows that this is a simpler form and simpler surface and keeps this completely flat compared to this where it has a curvature and keeps that curvature. Meshi, no, not good at all. Hunyan actually gives us quads. Triple can give you quads, and I found that quads were fine. But look what happens when you give it this helmet with low poly triangulation. I mean, that is pretty amazing. You could probably show this to everybody and say, post this online and say, here's my retopoed, optimized model that I created, and people would be like, none the wiser. Like, that's how good some of this is getting, right? Obviously, you'd have to clean it up. There are floating verts. There are non-manifold geometry. These are not production ready, but as a starting point, that's really solid. And let's look at the Techwear stuff, right? Meshi, nope. Standard reduction. Tripo for this, low poly with parts. Again, I mean, this is solid. This is really good. And then we look at Hunyan. It does really good. It does get a little bit odd in some areas like the sleeve, but look at the distribution of edges, the triangulation, the handling of more complex forms versus simpler forms. I mean, it's all there. This is a significant improvement. And to be honest, this is where I see a lot of artists wanting this, is I've created a model, I created a sculpt, I want to pump it through AI to automatically create a retopoed, animation ready, or low poly game optimized version and give that to you. That way, as artists, we can still focus on the 3D art while at the same time letting it take care of the monotonous, repetitive tasks and technical tasks like retopology. So what I have here is this is the full game art scene that I created in my recent game art course. And I wanted to see if I could integrate AI generated models within the scene and see if anybody would notice. So take a look at this scene, pause it, and see if you can pick out in which assets are AI generated compared to being hand modeled. So it may not be 100% obvious which one. So let's look at the topology and wireframe, right? See if you can notice it just with topology alone. We have some cups, glue bottles. We have the hero prop, some duct tape, painter's tape, glasses, lamp. Oh, look at that. right? We start to look at here in this corner, these game prop assets, right? If I hide this, the entire scene, right? Let's say we get rid of these trees. The entire scene is 75,000 triangles, okay? With these game props alone, these little guys here in the corner, these are 20,000. And these are about as low as I could get them. And look at that. And these are not assets that I could use as is. The goal was to just use AI to generate the actual images, then AI to generate the meshes. As is, I didn't want to touch anything. And this is about as good as I could get it, and it's not that bad. So here's the final takeaway. I don't hate AI. I see a lot of potential here. But like with a lot of things, the marketing, the hype is just not true. It still needs time to be refined and evolved under the context of this being used in a production pipeline. If you're using this just to generate cool looking assets, you want to create 3D printed objects, you're creating something that doesn't have an exact concept, then yes, there is a lot of potential here and a lot of strength. That's exactly why I went through this. Because like a lot of you, I've been absolutely inundated with AI, mesh generation, image generation, and I wanted to see how strong it is today, as in the beginning of 2026. I absolutely do not see this replacing 3D artists. But from one 3D artist to another, give yourself time to learn these workflows. Give yourself time to just be aware. Because I'm telling you right now, there is a very, very good chance that this is going to get good enough where it will be part of our pipeline. And that's the way that I see it. I come back to this every few months. I test this personally to see how good it is. Because if this becomes so good, I don't want to be left behind. That's really how I've approached software and my technical skills in general. So as long as you keep this workflow in mind, where you use it intentionally, use it in instances where you're generating ideas, or you're using it for filler assets, or you're using it as a starting point. And the main thing is that it is a tool. You still have to have an artistic eye to create something that looks good. Otherwise, it's gonna do this. It's just gonna create what it thinks, if think is even the word. Like it can make helmets, but it can't make my helmet. It can't make the helmet that I need it to make. It's strong for generic assets, but struggles when it comes to these specifics, guys. So yeah, there it is. That is my, I would say, kind of beginning of 2026 review of AI mesh generation from a perspective of a 3D artist. No matter what, it's gonna have an impact on the industry, guys. I'm seeing it everywhere too. Coding, software, accounting, legal, anything that is on a screen, anything that is digital or tech, is going to be impacted by AI. So let me know what you think. Did this go as you expected? Did it actually produce results that you were impressed with, just like I was? I'd love to hear what you think. And don't forget, we have a Discord community where we're talking about this exact topic. So with that, I'll see you in the next one.